Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Seed Talk. My name is Layne, and we have a special Seed Talk episode for you today. This past weekend, the Gardener's Workshop hosted an annual open farm event where we welcomed visitors from all over the country to tour the farm and do some in-person shopping at the warehouse. Last year when we had the annual open farm event, I interviewed some of the guests we had at the time, which included Dave Dowling, Ellen Frost, and Val Shermer, all of whom are instructors of online courses with the Gardener's Workshop. And I tracked them down and found out how the day went and got some tips and tricks that they had shared with the open farm guests. And I did the same thing this year. Val wasn't able to join us, but I tracked down Dave, Ellen, and Lisa, and they shared some insights with us about growing, farming, and floral arranging. Please keep in mind that we were recording on site during the event, so there's definitely some background noise and the audio quality isn't the greatest, but I hope you enjoyed this little peek behind the scenes of the 2024 Open Farm. First up are Dave and Lisa. Enjoy! All right, we are here at the farm and I've stumbled upon Lisa and Dave Dowling. They're very hot and they're very exhausted after being out all day. Their shirts are soaking, but at least you can't tell that. How did it go, everybody?
It was an overwhelming response. We're just thrilled for the day. It was great.
Hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Dave, do you want to tell us what you talked about, what you focused on, and give people some tips about those particular plants?
Yeah, one thing I talked about with the hydrangeas, which are over in the back corner of the farm. There's some of the blue hydrangeas and pink, which are the macrophyllus, which important thing to remember about those is they bloom on old wood, which means they make the flower bud for next year, late this summer. So you never want to cut them down or prune them. And you got to be aware of the spring weather. If you get warm weather, they'll sprout, and then a hard freeze will kill that sprout and you won't have flowers that year. But if you have a great year for them, they're an amazing crop to grow. They do really well along the coast where your springs are long and slow. It doesn't heat up and then cool off again. So talk about those hydrangeas. Also the limelight hydrangeas, which are the white, peachy, or paniculata hydrangeas that do really well because they bloom on new wood. They always bloom no matter what. You never have a year without flowers. Talked about peonies. Lisa has a long bed, I think a 90-foot bed of assorted peony varieties. And she gets about 1,000 flowers off that 90-foot bed every year, which makes it a very profitable bed because even if they were hand-me-down plants from her family years ago, but if she had bought those plants 10 or 15 years ago, it's all pure profit after that. And she's got them planted in a way that she doesn't really have to take care of them much. They're weed fabric on both sides to keep out the weeds and wood mulch on top of them, and you weed them once a year and they're clean and really great, low input, high profit plant once they're established.
Early focal point flowers for us,
yes.
yeah.
Yes, it's one of the last spring big focal flower, and then people are like, oh, I don't have dahlias, I don't have zinnias. There's kind of a lot of growers have that empty space for 2 or 3 weeks because they're the big peonies, which are amazing. They don't have dahlias yet or anything other big flower.
Right. Hits Mother's Day usually.
Yes.
Dave, what are your favorite varieties of hydrangeas and peonies?
Oh, well, if you go with the hydrangeas, then there's Nico Blue, which has been around forever. It's a no-brainer, always blue, blue, blue. If the soil pH is really low, they might be pink, but otherwise they're just going to be a perfect blue. There's one called Merit Supreme, which is usually pink, that does really well. Again, they're old varieties, affordable, easy to find in garden centers. And for peonies, Sarah Bernhardt, number one. It's the best pink out there, lowest price pink. The variety's been around for, I think, 110 years. And with a 110-year history, it's got to be good because people still buy them every year. It's great.
Dave, did you talk in Lisa's hellebore patch at all today?
Yeah, we did. Lisa's hellebore patch is under her big salsa magnolia tree. They've been there for probably 15 years.
50.
50. The plants have been there for 50. You're not that old. The tree is 50. The plants have been there for 50.
Right. Sorry.
You're not that old.
We are hot.
But she has the hellebore. It's the standard old variety called Orientalis. A great plant, reseeds, has spread and made a huge patch of hellebore there. Lots of stems every year. Early bloomer, starts blooming in January and February, but you don't really want to harvest them until the flowers have matured and the pollen has turned to a seed pod, and then you harvest them. They have a really long vase life. They start out kind of a creamy whitish color and turn a green as they dry or as they age. Just a great cut flower to have. There are lots of newer varieties of hellebore, some hybrid varieties that come in different colors and the flowers more upright, but you pay a lot more for those and they're not going to reseed. So if you can grow hellebore, I would grow a little of each because the other colors can be pretty amazing.
Lisa, how about you? What did you talk about today?
I really enjoyed sharing with people the succession planting view You know, there's flowers in bloom, there's flowers that are on their way out, there's lots of new plantings, there's plantings that are halfway, and I think it was a real eye-opener for people that that's a way to really make the maximum use of your small space, perhaps, and just to see it in action, people were just astounded.
Were there any questions that people asked you over and over again?
Oh, yeah. Mostly about taking care of pathways and how to maintain the pathways and about mulching beds, methods to do that, as well as improving their soil. So people are really eager to do that. And there's just so many different ways to do all of those things depending on your situation. So we had a lot of conversation about that today.
I had a really good question from a guy. He was looking at his retirement and has a acre of property with a house on part of that. So he only has a half acre to grow on. And when can I grow on half an acre? And I said, most definitely, yes, you can. Mm-hmm. When Lisa started, you were growing about a half acre, maybe a little bit more. So it can be done. It all depends on what you grow and how efficient you plant space-wise and succession planting. But you can definitely grow a lot of cut flowers on a half an acre, and it's enough work to keep you busy.
Were there any flowers that seemed to be the most popular with the guests?
Well, everybody loves zinnias.
Yeah, zinnias look good. And the lisianthus. The lisianthus look really good.
Was very, very beautiful.
Big, beautiful, right here.
Yes. Look great. And I also think the coxcombs, the celosia, I think people struggle to grow that. And when they see so many varieties in full bloom and so many great colors, it just inspires them. Yeah.
It's one that people don't grow enough of, celosia.
Exactly.
If you could leave everyone with one tip after talking with everybody today, what would that be?
Build your soil, because one of the big topics today was how we don't irrigate very much, and we're in a drought, and it's because how great our soil is, and we spend a lot of time building our soil, and with the payoff is now, and that's what it's really all about,
I tell them, get your hands dirty and go out and do it. Go out and start growing. You can research for 10 years. You're not going to learn as much as once you start really doing it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And plant your peonies right away.
Plant your peonies the first year you do it.
Exactly, for sure.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's great.
I always love talking to Dave and Lisa, and before we move on to Ellen, my husband Hrach is going to join me to give you some updates from the seed area at the warehouse, which is where we were stationed all day. How'd it go, Hrach?
It was actually a lot of fun. People came from all over, a lot of different states, a lot of different places. So it was really neat to hear about where they were growing and what type of stuff they're growing. So I always found that very interesting.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And I have to say, it means so much to have people come up and introduce themselves and tell us what they're growing or even what they're struggling with so we can try and troubleshoot it together. And I had several people say, this is like a live episode of Seed Talk, which was so funny. So thanks so much to everyone who came up and said hello. And we appreciate each and every one of our listeners and viewers. So Hrach, what would you say was the most popular seed of the day, just based on people asking you where to find it?
So I would say it was the Maya rudbeckia, which actually was not that surprising because it was in full bloom at the farm. So that's the one I would say.
Yes, I agree with you, Hrach. That was the one I got asked about the most too. And we actually ended up selling out at some point during the day. So Maya is a black-eyed Susan with these golden yellow flowers, fully double. There are layers and layers of petals, and the blooms are often 4 inches across. A lot of people think they have a similar look to teddy bear sunflowers, if you're familiar with those, and they're gorgeous out in the landscape and in bouquets. It is a more compact plant than some of the other rudbeckias, so if it is winter hardy in your zone, you can help to maximize that stem length by planting in the fall, following the cool flower concept. And Rudbeckia hirta is winter hardy to USDA Zone 5, by the way. And for anyone wanting to learn how to grow Rudbeckia from seed all the way to harvesting out in the field, remember that Lisa and I have an on-demand online course called Cool Flowers from Seed to Harvest that walks you through everything with real-life video demonstrations, and you can actually watch the entire Rudbeckia session as a free sample, so I'll be sure to put the link to that in the show notes. Okay, so what was a popular question we got asked a lot today, Hrach?
Well, there actually were a lot of different types of celosias growing out at the farm, and people were wondering how the different forms relate to the botanical names.
That can be really confusing. So there are 3 main types or forms of celosia you'll commonly see being used as cut flowers. And if you look at the botanical name of a given cultivar, it'll usually end in cristata, plumosa, or spicata. So the cristata types are the crested celosia or coxcombs. These are the ones that resemble brains or sea coral, and they can be shaped more like a ball or like a fan. And both of those forms are Celosia argentea cristata. And the Chief series and Spring Green are examples of cristata types. The plumosa types are the plume celosia. They have these big, beautiful plumes with a soft, feathery look. A great example of this would be the Sunday series. And lastly, we have the spicata types. These are often referred to as wheat celosia because they have more spike-like flowers that resemble the heads of wheat. Some examples of spicata types are flamingo feather and the Selway series. So there you have it, 3 different forms of celosia to give you the look you're going for. Hrach, there was one question I feel like we got more than any other, and I want to see if you can guess which one. What do you think we got asked the most?
I would say a lot of people want to know which warm season seeds they could start right now to bloom in the fall.
Yeah, and that was definitely the most popular question I got too. And I'll give you 3 great options, although there are definitely more than that. And we're not going to get into whether or not you still have time to plant another round of warm season seeds, just because that could be an entire episode all on its own. But I'll give you 3 great flower choices for fall blooms that you might still have time to plant depending on where you live. So first of all, single stem sunflowers are always a great choice for fall. The Pro-Cut series is typically only around 50 to 60 days from seed to bloom, depending on the variety and the time of year. So they're a really fast crop, and there are incredible color choices for fall, from the classic oranges to the bicolors like Pro-Cut Plum, which is one of my favorites, to the red. They're just so perfect for fall focal flowers, and of course, they look gorgeous in a vase all by themselves. Another recommendation would be amaranth. Again, this is such a fast crop. Many of the varieties are only around 65 to 75 days from seed to bloom, and it's a short day plant that actually flowers faster under short day conditions like we experience in the fall.
And the pest pressure is a lot less too at that time of year, at least it is for us.
That is a really good point, and that's actually why in our garden we're only growing amaranth this year for late summer and fall bloom. So thanks for pointing that out. And there are trailing forms and upright forms of amaranth, all in the most gorgeous fall colors, burnt oranges, bronzes, purple reds, even warm pinks and greens. And by the way, make sure to check out episode 48, which was our amaranth growing guide, because we shared a lot of really useful tips to help you be successful with amaranth. And then the third one I'd recommend are cosmos. They're another one that blooms faster under short day conditions, and they perform so well in the late summer and fall in terms of abundance and flower quality. And I love all the colors, but double click cranberries and rubenza are 2 classic choices for fall. And I also love apricota all year round. We actually have a Cosmos variety comparison episode set to come out soon, so be on the lookout for that. And many Cosmos varieties are only around 75 to 90 days to bloom. But with any of the flowers I've mentioned, just be sure to check the days from seed to maturity for the specific variety you're growing, because that can vary from flower to flower. All right. Anything else, Raj?
No, those are some great suggestions. I like how you mentioned some of these ones with the fall color. So there's just some good picks for everyone. And I wanted to thank everyone for coming out and being so friendly and nice. And it was a lot of fun interacting with everyone. And thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for being here, Hrach. Now let's head over to the warehouse to check in with Ellen. And do keep in mind that there were people actively shopping and talking all around us as we recorded this, so please excuse the background noise. All right, now we're here with Ellen. Ellen, can you just introduce yourself and then walk us through this beautiful bouquet that you made today?
Sure. I'm Ellen Frost. I'm the owner of Local Color Flowers. We are a floral design studio located in Baltimore, Maryland. We source all of our flowers locally, and we've been in business for 17 years. And today I made this large urn arrangement, all full of flowers from the Gardener's Workshop. So I'll tell you a little bit about our design style and sort of how we chose these flowers. So for a large urn like this, the first thing I'm thinking about is size and scope. So I'm thinking about how large width-wise and how tall height-wise. So I never want it to be more than about 1.5 times the height of the vase, and about the same for width. So this arrangement would be something like we would use for a wedding on a pedestal, or maybe for an entry piece, something like that for this size. So I always start my arrangement with foliage. In this arrangement, I've used apple mint. I've also used some mountain mint. Also used a little bit of what I would call filler, this monarda. So I've sort of based my arrangement on that, started with that. Next, I started filling in with these lisianthus bunches. Even though it's a single stem, there's lots of blooms on one stem, so it feels like a little bouquet. So I've got a lot of lisianthus, both in these pinks and then in these really pretty creamy colors. And then I've included some face flowers, both zinnias, so we've got some all different color zinnias, and then also this rudbeckia, which has been really beautiful. And then I really just finished off the arrangement with a little of this sweet pea at the edge, because I always like to soften the edge of my arrangement. I want my arrangement to feel as much as kind of like mimicking nature as I can. And then lastly, I have a little bit of cosmos, mostly just for whimsy, like a little cherry on the top of your arrangement, adding these little cupcake cosmos into the arrangement. And it's always fun making floral arrangements with local flowers, because every time we make them, they're different, just depending on what is available locally. This color palette is sort of a rusty pastel wildflower kind of color palette, which I really enjoy this time of year. So yeah, just really happy with how it turned out.
Ellen, can you tell us a little bit more about Solomon seal and why you love that so much as a foliage?
Yes. Solomon seal is terrific. I'll tell you, it's one of the first foliages that come on in the spring. So we go from like evergreens in the winter to then this stretch where there's no foliage, where we're just like desperate for greenery. And Solomon seal is one of the first greens that really come on. It starts in maybe the beginning of May, and then really it holds in the ground really well. I mean, we're still picking off of it now 6, 8, 10 weeks later. The other good thing is that once you harvest it at its right harvest stage, it can last in the cooler for weeks. So you can harvest it, keep it, use it, wait a week, use it again. We really love it. I'll just pick a little piece out here to say, just a reminder to anybody, florists love this. So if you're a grower and you're growing this, grow more. Always remember, you want the variegated style, not the plain green. Nobody cares about the plain green, it's too boring. But the variegated, really nice. And you can see here, there's these little stems. This is where the flowers were. You really want to wait until the flowers wilt and fall off before you harvest. If you harvest with the flowers on, they're super cute. But if you harvest with the flowers on, your foliage is sure to wilt. It's just too new, too tender. And now you can see that it's very stiff. It's almost plasticky feeling, which is why it lasts so long. So we love it. We use a ton of it. I said we probably buy thousands of dollars of Solomon seal every spring. For growers, it's easy to grow. You can grow it in the shade. So if you don't have a ton of sun, you can grow it in the shade, and it spreads. So it's a great perennial. I highly recommend it.
And you mentioned mountain mint and apple mint. Do you have a favorite mint that you like to use as a florist?
Mountain mint is definitely my favorite. I like apple mint, and I like the shape of the leaves, and I do like the fragrance, but by far mountain mint is my favorite. We have a lot of growers that grow it. It fills in so nicely, so it is a little bit more, it takes up a little more space, and the fragrance is so nice. We love to include things that are fragrant in our arrangements, and the mountain mint fragrance is really just spot on.
And can you tell everyone how they can connect with you on social media? And she has a wonderful YouTube channel and a newsletter.
You can definitely find us on social media. Our shop, Local Color Flowers, you can find us there, or you can find me at Ellen Frost Flowers, same on YouTube. And we do have a great newsletter, weekly newsletter, all about local flowers. So if you go to ellenfrost.com, you'll find it there.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Well, that does it for this episode of Seed Talk. Thank you so much again to everyone that came to visit us here at the Open Farm and Warehouse, as well as those of you that are watching or listening virtually. If you're in the United States, we want to wish you a safe and happy 4th of July, celebrating with family and friends. If you're enjoying Seed Talk, please make sure to share it with a friend and follow or subscribe wherever you're watching or listening so you won't miss any of our future episodes. So thanks everyone for joining us once again, and until next time, happy growing!